Hi, I wanted to make this video because I've been thinking. And this time I've been thinking about learning to slow down. So the reason I've been thinking about learning to slow down is because I'm planning ahead to my retirement and I don't want it to be too much of a shock when I get there. And the reason I think it could be a shock is because I've realised I might have accidentally spent the last 20 years trying to go faster and faster and fit more and more things in. And I've become stuck in that cycle without even really realising it. And even going as fast as I can, it still never seems fast enough because there's always still more work to be done. So the idea of slowing down doesn't sit very well with my current lifestyle, and I want to do something about it. So after giving it some thought, I've started to realise that it's probably impossible to be fast enough to keep up with modern life, and we're potentially spoiling our enjoyment of life by rushing everything and potentially spoiling our health by overwhelming our senses and being too busy to take care of ourselves. So we need to do something about it. So as I mentioned, I'm starting to think ahead to the future when I hope to be retired, and I want to be able to enjoy a slower pace of life without feeling like something is missing. But if I carry on like I am now, I'll probably need about 50 different hobbies plus a part-time job if I can't manage to slow down a bit and find a different pace in life. I do want to make sure to keep hold of my energy, but I want to channel it in different ways and give my time and energy to the right things so that I can actually notice and enjoy the world around me instead of always rushing on to the next thing. So I'm not retiring yet, but I want to do something about this now because I think it could be a bit of an adjustment that might take a while to get used to. I'll need to learn how to do things differently, and it will probably take a bit of practice. I want to feel more in control of the pace of my life and to be a bit more selective about how I spend my time. I still want to use technology to make my life easier and more fun, but I just don't want it to be shouting at me all the time like it seems to be at the moment. I am worried that I might be slightly addicted to being busy. I probably think of it in some ways as a sign of success, so it might be quite hard to break away from that. But I really do want to move away from that mindset and start to view success in a different way. So I'm looking to start with some small changes that I can fit into my current life, but that will have a positive impact and set me moving in the right direction. So let's see what we can come up with. I think first it might be interesting to have a look at how we've got ourselves into this mess in the first place, because I'm pretty sure that we haven't always been zooming around like we do now. So what happened? Well, I think the first obvious cause is technology. It's been such a great enhancement to life in so many ways, but it's also responsible for the crazy pace of modern life that really wouldn't be possible without it. And being the age I am, I've experienced life without all the technology that we currently have, and it was definitely very different and much slower. So as an example, the first office job I had, we didn't even have a computer. We worked off paper and we used to send things in the post, or snail mail as we might call it now. And when you got something off your desk by sending a letter to someone, it was gone for days or even weeks before you could expect a reply. And a big sack of post used to arrive in the morning, and another one would leave at the end of the day. And I'm sure probably nothing like that exists now, and it would seem like madness for things to take that long. But instead, we're often greeted with a wall of emails when we start the day and have another wall in our sent items by the end of the day. And we're no longer restricted to the once or twice a day postal delivery. Instead, it's a constant stream of messages. And the more you get rid of, the more come straight back, all expecting an immediate response. And waiting days or weeks would be totally unacceptable now. And we've also added lots of other ways for people to contact us immediately. So instead of just answering a phone or opening a letter, we might have 4 or 5 different email accounts to check, a constant stream of Teams messages or other chat applications, as well as our own personal phones and emails and WhatsApp and other notifications. You know, we might think that we enjoy the immediate communication, and it certainly is handy and fun at times, but we also might not be noticing how relentless and draining it can be. So I think technology has really revolutionised how we do business, but there's never been a time when so many people are burned out and signed off sick or working long hours and never feeling quite good enough because they can't keep up. So there's no denying that technology is amazing, and most of us wouldn't want to be without it. But the downside is that we just don't seem to have learned how to set healthy boundaries with it. And the expectation of instant replies adds a lot of pressure to our lives. Nobody wants or expects to wait for anything now, which again is useful at times, but also comes with a lot of pressure. I feel quite glad that I've got the perspective of knowing how much things have changed in the last 20 or 30 years. So I know that it doesn't have to be like this. And I feel quite worried for the younger generation who've never known a slower pace of life and might think it's normal to feel overwhelmed and burned out all the time. Because I think that change in pace has crept into almost every aspect of our lives. And although we can't imagine going back, we all seem to be a lot more stressed and impatient as a result. I actually read recently that even our attention spans might be getting shorter. So potentially all this hurrying is having a negative impact on our intellect. I know that I've been as guilty as other people of using busyness like a badge of honour, but is anyone actually happy with all the hurrying and the busyness? Or have we just become addicted to it? I know that I've felt a sense of satisfaction and pride when I've managed to fit in loads of things and not fall to pieces, but I wouldn't say that it was enjoyment. And I do know that I find it hard to step away because there's always something else that needs doing. And if I don't do it now, I'll have to do it tomorrow. And by tomorrow, there might be 100 other new things that need doing. So I might regret not doing that extra thing today. And so it goes on and on. It's almost like bailing out a sinking ship, and you have to keep going or else you're doomed. I've managed to find lots of different ways to save time over the years, from learning how to type faster, taking fewer breaks, having lunch at my desk, setting up email templates, learning Excel spreadsheets and formulas, or even going as far as skipping meals to save time. But yet somehow I still never managed to get to the end. So I think I've realised now that there really is no end. So finding ways to save time isn't the answer, because as soon as you save some time, another task comes along to fill the gap. So I think the answer has to be knowing when to stop. And I think that's where we'll have to have some determination if we're not used to having those boundaries. So I'm hoping that I've made an important start by at least waking up to the reality of what I've been doing and how much I've been rushing through my life. And maybe if you're watching this video, you've also realised that you need to slow down. So I'm hoping the fact that I'm not looking to grind to a halt yet will make it a bit easier to achieve. But where do I start? Well, because I mostly work from home, I think I've allowed the lines between work and home to become quite blurred. So I've started by making the simple change of not starting work as soon as I get up in the morning. But instead, I make sure that I start each day with a quiet cup of coffee where I don't look at my phone or my laptop, but instead I just look out of the window and think about what sort of day might lie ahead. And I also try and take the time to remind myself how lucky I am to be able to do that. And the other boundary I've put in place is to make sure that I stop working while I have my lunch and instead read a book or a magazine while I eat. You know, it might only take 15 or 20 minutes, but that's still more than I used to take. My finish time is still a bit blurry, but I'll work on that bit soon. So I've put a few more boundaries in place, but I still need to slow down a bit. And I had an experience recently that made me realise the power of doing something intentionally, slowly. I was given a voucher for a back massage for my birthday, and when I went for the massage, I had a bit of a wake-up moment when I realised that the massage was being done slowly on purpose to be more relaxing. So I know that probably sounds obvious, but it was a thought that had quite an impact on me. I realised that if the massage had been hurried, it wouldn't have been nearly as nice. And I think it was just that simple realisation that really got me thinking about whether my life is full of opportunities for enjoyment if only I could slow down to appreciate them. So I think that was the trigger for me making a few changes to slow things down a bit. So firstly, I try to make sure that I book in a massage every month now or so, and I can look forward to that time of really slowing everything down, and then try and keep that feeling for the rest of the day. And also when I go for my morning walk, I now try and make a point of stopping to take some photos of something pretty in nature. I usually manage to find a nice plant or a bird or even just a nice sparkle from the sun to add to my collection. And by doing that, it makes me stop and notice what's around me instead of just hurrying back to my desk. And if it's a nice day, I might even stop and sit for 5 minutes to enjoy the view and definitely not look at my phone. So those 5 minutes really don't make any difference to my working day, but they make a big difference to how I feel. And I think just the act of doing something slower when it could have been done more quickly and doing it purely for the enjoyment makes my whole life feel a bit slower. It's amazing how that can work. It's almost like a time warp. So for now, they're really just small changes, but they are making a difference, and I can feel my mindset starting to shift. So I think those changes are setting me on the path that I want to be on. So my goal is one day to be able to make one activity take all day because I've slowed down so much. But I'm happy with my progress so far. So I hope you'll also be able to find some ways to slow things down and enjoy a few more simple pleasures in life. So, getting back to the original question, can I do something now to help me start slowing down before I get to retirement? So I think definitely yes, I can, but it does mean breaking some habits that are quite ingrained. I've definitely made a start. Some of my new habits are already being challenged, so I'm going to have to be determined. But that's okay because I am determined. I don't plan to give up on any of the changes to my routine that I've made, and I'm planning to add some more when I can, until I can get to that dream goal of making one activity last me all day. And it does sound like a dream. So I hope you've taken something useful from this video, but I think that's all for this time. So thanks for watching and I hope to see you next time.